Now then, more news on that protest which has disrupted flights at Nottingham East Midlands Airport. These pictures were taken by the protesters and they've been holding what they call a service of remembrance on the tarmac for victims of climate change. The stretch of runway isn't used for takeoffs, but the airport say it has delayed flights and they have condemned the actions of the protesters. Well, with me now is one of those demonstrators from the group Plain Stupid, Joss Garman. Joss, why have you resorted to such drastic action? You've jumped over the fences and got into Nottingham East Midlands Airport to stage this protest.
Yeah, because already we know that the World Health Organization, part of the UN, says that over 160,000 people are dying every year from climate change. That's the equivalent of a 9/11 every single week. And we know that short-haul flights in particular, and aviation in general, is the fastest growing cause of climate change. And yet the government's refusing to act on this, and this is why we felt so passionately as to go in there.
Do you really think that this is the way to make your point, though?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, it was the Green movement that radically changed the government's plans for road building in the early 90s. You saw whole swathes of woodland saved when, activists took to the trees and chained themselves to bulldozers and this kind of thing.
It's called direct action, isn't it? But, this is a dangerous stunt, and for all you know, you could have actually been putting lives at risk. So direct action isn't always the best way.
Well, it's a last resort, and this is what we've come to because the government refuses to act. And the fact of the matter is that the real security threat comes from climate change. 20% of Bangladesh to go underwater. We know from the Tyndall Centre for Climate Change Research, which is cutting-edge research on these things, that by 2030, even if you shut down the entire rest of the economy, we're going to miss our climate change targets just because of aviation.
Are you saying then that we're going to see more direct action like this because of what's happening globally?
Absolutely. A couple of months ago at Drax Power Station, it's the single biggest emitter of CO2. Today at East Midlands Airport, fastest growing cause of climate change. This is a movement that's growing. It's going to be bigger.
The airport itself isn't, but obviously the flights taking off from any airport.
And aviation, And I think this movement's going to get bigger. Last week we saw a poll in The Sun which said that 63% of people would give up a foreign holiday to help save the planet. The majority of people want a tax on aircraft fuel. The Tories and the Lib Dems are moving on this, and yet Labour are lagging behind. And it's going to be up to us, the public, to lead our leaders yet again.
Isn't there, though, a very serious risk, you say Labour's lagging behind, though, that you will alienate real people, more people than you'll attract to your cause by what you're doing, because people will have been leaving the airport hopefully to go on holiday today and you've stopped them from doing that?
But I think increasingly people are realising that these short-haul flights are totally unnecessary. These are destinations like Ireland, France, places that you can easily get to by train, a bus and ferry, which is over 10 times less polluting. And the public has to realise that. I'd like to see one of these people getting on a flight look a resident of Tuvalu, which is an island nation already being evacuated at the rate of 75 people a week, and say, sorry, it's part of our way of life.
OK, Joss, we're going to have to leave it there, but we do understand the latest news from Nottingham East Midlands Airport is that 15 demonstrators have now been arrested.